dreams, unless we have them all. We breathe the beauty of the world. So walk lightly on the earth. Walk lightly on the earth. Yeah, yeah.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Unity Comox Valley, a positive path for spiritual living. Today, I'm doing something that I hope each and every one of you is also doing, taking care of yourself. Once a month, I'll be inviting one of our Unity ministers to provide the Sunday talk for you while I take time to rest, relax, and renew. This week, our guest speaker is Randy Jacobs. Tomorrow, June 15th, she will be virtually attending her ordination and graduation ceremony. In addition to being ordained, a Master's of Divinity will also be conferred on her. I know Randy has worked diligently and wholeheartedly in accomplishing this goal, and we celebrate this with her. Randy lives in Ontario and is serving many ministries in the Toronto area, providing Sunday talks and virtual classes. We know her well from her time with us here in the Comox Valley and know that she is shining a bright light wherever she is. Enjoy her visit with us, and I'll see you next week.
Hey everybody, I am delighted to be a part of your service today. You know, the COVID-19 pandemic has presented so many challenges for us, hasn't it? But it has also presented opportunities that we can utilize to cope and to thrive during this downtime. And as I looked at news accounts and heard stories of people who are coping during this pandemic, one central theme that has come forward to me is that people are coping through using creativity. And I'm not talking about art, though it could be art. I'm talking about using creativity each in our own way. And some people are getting more creative in their cooking, in their gardening, in writing, creative in blogs, creative in all kinds of different ways, social media, whatever works for them. So each of us can get creative in our own way as a means to cope and to thrive. So I was reading a news article in the New York Times and it listed Dr. Kaufman, a humanistic psychologist, in the article. And what he says is, during this pandemic, as in times of stress, people have trouble creating. They just feel a bit unsettled. There's too much uncertainty and they don't know what makes sense anymore. So he says the way to navigate that is to spend time in self-reflection on the things that really matter and to get started on expressing our creativity. So it helps us to find meaning in our lives when we get creative. So I say, when it comes to creativity, get on a roll with your creativity. But what stops people from being creative? Well, it's messaging. That's what it is. Our own messaging and messaging we may have received from other people over the years. Their thoughts that they've communicated to us, their comments, things they might have said to us personally or in groups. So that stops people from being creative. But we can get past that and be more creative. Because I think it's important when it comes to creativity, it has three main parts. We need to spend time in reflection. We need to get rolling on our creativity, and then we will realize the benefits. So those are the three main parts of creativity, in my opinion. Now, I read that research shows that everybody is creative. Everybody and anybody is creative. And I was having a discussion with a friend a couple of months ago, and he said, I don't have a creative bone in my body. Really? I said. And I just love challenges like that. I said, would you be interested in reading some research that talks about creativity and how we all have it? He was willing to do that. And after he read the research, he said, you know what? I may be creative. I said, maybe? He said, yeah, okay. He said, I am creative. And so over the next few months, he started seeking out opportunities to be creative and in his own way. And then at the end of the 2 months, he has told me that he found that this is a great way to relieve stress, and it makes him feel good to know that he's doing something. Other people don't have to see it, but he's being creative and it gives him fun when he's doing it. And, you know, he gets a lot of enjoyment out of it. So what happened in that experience? Self-talk. He was telling himself, I don't have a creative bone in my body. And he also was telling other people. So when we changed the message, changed the record, some people call it, or we just changed the loop, and he started saying, I am creative, what happened? He was affirming that he was creative. And then he started to be more adventurous in it, and he started to have more creative pursuits. And also what happened in that experience was I was supportive of him. That's one thing that I think is really important for us to help other people, is to be supportive of them in their creative expression. We never know what language people have been hearing before, what languaging, and they might just need that extra bit of support from us that will make a difference and will cause them to be braver and to reach out and express their creativity even more. So we can do a lot for not only ourselves, but for other people in being very encouraging. So author Marcia Perkins said this about creativity. What keeps us from being creative is what we call the facts. They're not really facts, but we perceive them to be facts. They are the can'ts and the shoulds that we tell ourselves. And what happens with the can'ts and the shoulds, it fills our consciousness over time. And over time, we start to really believe that. And what we need to do is change that messaging, just like my friend did. And just instead break through that barrier and tell ourselves we can be creative. We are creative. So break through that, and it's amazing then what happens. Marcia Sineter is an author, and she wrote, In Developing a 21st Century Mind, she describes something called creatively adaptive people and being creatively adaptive. She said, learn from the results of your actions. Instead of trying a new creative pursuit and labeling it may be a failure, just instead label that feedback. It's feedback for you to think, okay, maybe I can do this a different way. Okay, maybe I should try something else. Think of creativity as an experiment. Think of it as a dance, something fun to do rather than a chore to do. And acting on your creativity is a very spiritual act. Did you know that? It is. Ernest Holmes said this about creativity. We are chemists in the laboratory of the infinite. We are chemists in the laboratory of the infinite. What then shall we create? So just like chemistry in the laboratory, we can experiment and create with all kinds of fun activities with our creativity. And Maya Angelou said this about creativity. You can't use up your creativity. The more you use, the more you get. Isn't that true? It's a never-ending supply. And I would add, the more you use, it expounds to everyone around you. So that if I'm in a very creative environment and I encourage other people, they also are going to be very creative. And that whole environment, the energy, for instance, of that environment changes. So Ernest Holmes said this about creativity. He said, no greater good can come to you than to know that the power already within you is the power to live, the power to create. So if we just realize that, we can create so much more in our lives. But if you're already creative, that's great. Continue on. Maybe now is the time for you to share your creativity with others so they can share in that experience. And maybe if you've been holding back a bit, listening to messaging that was not very helpful for you, maybe is the time for you to take some steps to be much more creative, because there are so many ways that you can get started on your creativity. Just for fun, I looked up how to get more creative, and I was drawn to this website called Creative Authenticity by artist Ian Roberts. And this is what he said. At some point, you just have to jump in, fears and all. There's something courageous about it. He gives some suggestions on how to get started. Search for beauty. It can be anything, a person, a place, an object. It just has to be something beautiful that grabs your attention, stops you in your tracks, and silences you. It could be a tree, a painting, an object, anything. All it needs is to be a vehicle for your imagination to get your creativity moving. He says, what you need to do is show up. Don't do the sidestepping of avoidance. Starting something is always a psychologically messy process because there are no rules surrounding what you want to do. Setting up a dedicated space and time, scheduling time to be creative, that's what is really important to do. And then practice, practice, practice. The more you practice something and you try it, the more efficient you get with it, the more familiar you get with it, and it just becomes natural and you can get a lot of joy out of it. He says to create an affirmation around creativity for yourself. And affirmations are so powerful. It's about what change is happening in your life, and it's affirming the truth of who and what you are. That's what affirmations are. And they're tremendous mind treatments that we can do for ourselves, and they also change the energy of those around us. And he said to remember, creativity is a process. It's not the finished results. It's the journey. It's the process. And you are more than creative enough. It's not about whether you are creative. You are creative. It's not about whether you are enough. You are enough. What it is about is whether you will set it in motion and take the action to be more creative. That's what's really important to do. So what are the benefits of acting on our creativity? Well, there are many, many benefits of acting on our creativity. A Harvard Medical School study showed that when people are being creative, they are in something called flow. Isn't that cool? Flow of creativity. And flow is an altered state of consciousness. People are awake and aware, but we're in the flow. We're in that energy of creativity. And in this state of consciousness called flow, people become completely unconscious of self, lose track of time, and get totally absorbed in what they're doing. And it's a kind of transcendence that takes place. So it's really a good thing for us. Creativity, expressing our creativity, is really good for brain health. A recent article that I read says that what happens when we express our creativity, it increases dopamine, and dopamine is a neurotransmitter that affects learning, motivation, and mood. Creativity is good for us. Creativity is good for our brain. It keeps us young. A recent article that I read by Dr. Daisy Fancourt said this about creativity. It's good for mood. What does it do? Well, first of all, it distracts us. Now, it doesn't mean that if we're having a particular problem, the problem is not there. But we know that what we focus on expands. So when we're distracted, that helps regulate our mood. And if we use creativity, it helps us navigate stress. The other aspect this article mentions about creativity is it's a contemplation tool. So it's a type of meditation. And we can use creativity to give the mind space to reassess any challenges that we're facing. And we can come to new ideas on how to tackle or how to address those challenges. And the third part of creativity, according to this article, is its self-development. It gives us confidence and a real joy when we are able to express our creativity and see the results. It's results that we are happy of, but it gives us a sense of accomplishment and know that we created something and we've had fun doing it. Charles Fillmore in Christian Healing said this about creativity. Man, on the positive, formative, creative side of his nature, is the direct emanation of his maker. That he is just like his maker, that he is endowed with creative power, and that his very being is involved in God mind, which he is releasing by his creative thought. According to Charles Fillmore, we are meant to be creative, and we can use our powers of imagination, our imagination powers, to create and to be very creative. It's a natural part of us. So let me ask you this. Over the next day, the next few weeks, would you like to express your creativity a little bit more? There are lots of resources on the internet to give you ideas on how to be more creative. And all it takes is making the decision to get started and express your creativity. And if you want to express your creativity more, spend time in contemplation, asking for ideas when you're in a type of meditation, and asking for insight on what is yours to do. What can you do next? You may get the answer right when you're in the meditation, But what happens is sometimes the seed is planted and then you will get ideas over the next few weeks on projects that you can do, or you will see signs or somebody will say something and opportunities will present themselves for you to be more creative. What's important is getting moving on your creativity so that you can realize the benefits. So if you remember nothing else, remember this. When it comes to creativity, get on a roll with your creativity. I wish you all the best, everybody. This is an interesting time that we're in right now. And, people can rise to the challenge, any challenge that we have in our lives. We are powerful beyond measure. We are stronger than we ever know. And we have everything that we need to evolve and to have a very creative life. I wish you all the best, everybody. Have a great day in the next few weeks and just continue to think about your creativity and how you can be more creative and the benefits it'll have for you. So wish you all the best, everybody. Take care.
In the stillness of the moment, there is peace. There is peace. In the stillness of the moment, there is peace. There is peace. And I rest, trust, breathe, and know that in the stillness of the moment there is peace. In the stillness of the moment there is peace. There is peace. In the stillness of the moment there is peace. There is peace. And I rest, trust, breathe, and know that in the stillness of the moment there is
Now, as we enter into this time of meditation, let us center on the truth that through prayer and meditation, we align our heart mind with spirit. This simple truth, bringing our awareness to our alignment to spirit, right here and right now, we can align with Source, one presence, one mind. And let us be aware that good is everywhere. We are good. And take the time now to focus on the affirmation, I am good. Let's take this affirmation into the silence. I am good. Yes, and I know that I attract goodness all around me. And I know that God is my help and uplifts me at all times. I am never alone. And any feelings of distraction or negativity are easily settled when I take the time to center, take a few deep breaths, and focus on the affirmation, I am good. And I know that as part of that goodness, there is prosperity in my life. Prosperity is a state of mind. By the law of giving and receiving, prosperity flows through me. And I know that I have all of the tools that I need to demonstrate prosperity right here, right now. I realize the life force of God is moving through me, energizing me with new life and new thought. Using my power of imagination, I can get new ideas to focus on, to realize more prosperity in my life. I am guided this moment, this day, this week by new direction, new ideas, new consciousness of prosperous living. By the law of giving and receiving, each day, every day, I share the wealth of God's abundance. Every door is opened, every barrier is removed, the way is made clear. I give thanks for the prosperity that is demonstrated in me and around me this day, and focused on the affirmation, I am prosperous. I am prosperous. In this next brief period of silence, I focus on the prosperity that flows through me and is manifested from me. I affirm that I am prosperous, and that prosperity is materializing all around and within me. I am prosperous. Change happens all the time, and change is part of my spiritual evolution. I can change, and through the promise of divine love, I know that even when I go through changes, I am never alone, and I am love. And I can manifest that love to others who may be going through changes also. And in this brief moment of silence, I welcome change that happens in my life, and I know that I have everything that I need to thrive in change. So focusing on the affirmation, I anticipate and welcome change. I go into the silence. I anticipate and welcome change. I affirm that positive change is happening within me and as me. And as the reality of goodness and changes happen in and around me, I empower my natural creative powers, because I know that creativity is a natural state of being, and I'm open to the fact that anyone can awaken their creative power. I can access my inspired state of creativity and manifest my soul's beauty and inner light. I allow the creative process to occur through me and as me. My creative awareness is being enhanced this week. I use creativity to follow my dreams and to fulfill my life's purpose. And knowing that I am creative, I take this affirmation into the silence. Creative energy surges through me and leads me to new and brilliant ideas. Creative energy surges through me and leads me to new and brilliant ideas. And through the coming days, the coming week, I know that I am creative, and creative energy surges through me and leads me to new and brilliant ideas. I am creative. I use my power of imagination to have more creative ideas every day. And now, as I bring my attention back to this time, this place, I know that every part of me is alive with God in every part of my being. And I know that there is a waves of positive energy flowing through me. I sizzle with energy. I feel good. I am good. I am prosperous. I am change. I am creative. I affirm this to be so. I let it be so, and so it is.
We are living in times without precedents. Over the last few months, a pandemic has forced us to live our lives in completely different ways. Some of them quite uncomfortable, and sometimes it can be very tiring to undertake this kind of journey that we're on right now. And right now, we are also witnessing all around the world a huge upswell that is bringing our attention to the horrific environment our brothers and sisters of color are living in and have been living in for centuries. Bringing to light in a bigger way than ever before the systemic racism that is embedded in our culture. We all have a role to play. Every single one of us has a place in this picture. I believe we need to ask ourselves, what can we do to contribute to this upswell so that it bears fruit. The road will be long and arduous, I'm sure, with many, many challenges, and we can't let it go. We have the opportunity now to create a world that works for all, where everyone can live to their full potential. I'd like to share a prayer with you that Unity Worldwide Ministries has created for these times. It's called A Prayer for the Wounded Heart of Humanity. We call upon God's love in this important moment, knowing that divine love is the greatest power in the universe. We pray for the wounded heart of humanity as we grieve, cry, and despair over injustice and inequality. May divine love enfold and comfort everyone who is hurting. May divine wisdom guide each person and institution in taking inspired action to ensure that all are celebrated for their inherent goodness as a part of God's creation. May we remain resolute in walking the course of human rights and social justice for all. We pray this in the spirit of unity, love, and oneness. And so it is. Amen.